Good morning, Miami Vineyard. How you guys doing today? You guys good? You guys feeling good? Ready to go? Ready to go. Happy Sunday, y'all. You guys look amazing. You guys look amazing. All of you. 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, you know what's funny. Good morning, my name is Nick, I'm one of the pastors here at Miami Vineyard. It's so good to be with you guys here at Miami Vineyard, and for those of you that are joining us online, thank you so much for being here with us, wherever you join in from. Make sure you say hello in the chat. Real quick update before we go ahead and jump in. So Pastor Kevin is not here with us this weekend because Pastor Kevin has been going through it these past few days. For those of you who do not know, so Pastor Kevin had some major dental surgery just a few days ago, and I think here are the counting stats. I think it was 6 teeth removed, 4 implants, and some bone grafting. And if you don't know what any of those things mean, it's just a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain. So Pastor Kevin is recovering. He's recovering from home, but he's joining in online. So would y'all give some Vineyard love to Pastor Kevin? We love you, PK. We're praying for you. And can't wait to see you soon. If you think about your pastor, pray for him. He's going through it. That's painful. And then also, I want to let you know that we are in a series. We're in a series called Unsubscribe. We're 2 weeks in. Today is week 3 of a series called Unsubscribe. And what we're trying to do with this idea of unsubscribing is taking account of the things that we have maybe come to believe along the way in our lives. Like as we've lived life, we've gone through some things and we've experienced some things and we've been in certain contexts and we have certain family members and we grow up in a certain culture and in a certain city. And along the way, we've picked up some things about how we believe things about God and what we believe about ourselves and what we believe about the world around us and people around us. And so what we're trying to do in this series of Unsubscribe is we're trying to raise our awareness of these things because often half the time we're unconscious or these things are subconscious of what we really come to believe and the assumptions that we've come to make about life. And then we've come to grow in our awareness of them, evaluate, are these things life-giving? Are these things fruitful? Are these things actually true? And then from there, unsubscribing to the things that are unfruitful and unhealthy, and then maybe resubscribing or for the first time subscribing to the truth and subscribing to real life so that we may continue to grow in the purposes and plans that God has for us. And that's the series. That's what we've been doing. And it got me thinking about this idea of unsubscribing, because this can be a challenge, right? Like actually like doing the work and going through and looking through the inbox of our life, if you will. Any of you guys have unread emails? Like you, or so let me say, maybe not your work email, right? But maybe like you have like a personal email. I call it my junk email. The things that like if I want to like get like a freebie, like I give them this email so that they can email me for the rest of their lives and I never have to open it, right? Right? You don't have that email? You guys have that email? It's like the first email that you ever made, right? Mine's is bballforlife28@yahoo.com. I made it when I was 10 years old, and it is the email I give to everyone when I don't actually want to hear from you. Check this out. So I have 50, hopefully that you don't give that email to Miami Vineyard, by the way. Hopefully you must be like, I got to update my email with Miami Vineyard. I have 51,945 unread emails on that one. 51, and you know why? And you know why I have that many unread emails for that one? Same reason why you have that many unread emails for that one. Some of you are like, that is insane. You need to go and like read your emails. And some of you are like, that's it? Like 51,000? Like you need to get 6 digits and then you can come talk to me. I have that many unread emails in my life because it is so hard to unsubscribe. Have you guys experienced this? It is so challenging to actually, so then you actually got to go to that unread email. You got to scroll all the way to the very bottom. You got to like get your magnifying glass to pick like that tiny little button that says unsubscribe here. And then it takes you to this website and you got to fill out this questionnaire and they ask you, do you really want to unsubscribe? Yes. Are you really, really sure? Yes. Do you pinky, like it's this insane process and you got to do that thousands of times. And this is the idea. Unsubscribing takes work. Unsubscribing takes a little bit of work because you can step into something easily. It's easy to subscribe, but it's harder to unsubscribe. And so that's kind of the journey. Like we're committing as a Vineyard family. Like we're going to put in the work over this series, and we're going to put in the work to unsubscribe some things that are unfruitful and unhealthy in our life. You guys down for that? You guys down for the journey? All right, so what we want to do, so the past few weeks, so Pastor Kevin has been with us the past 2 weeks and kind of just giving us an introduction to this whole idea in week 1. And then in week 2, we looked at some core and foundational lies that we have come to believe about God and about ourselves in the process. And to talk about these foundational truths, we went all the way back to the foundation. We went to the beginning. We went to the Garden of Eden in Genesis 2 and 3. And we looked at how the serpent, how Satan came into the garden and began to sow some seeds of doubt and deception into the hearts and into the minds of the first humans so that they would begin to question God's character. And they would begin to question their role within all of this in the process. And what leads to this moment is strained relationships at every level. There's now a strained relationship in their relationship with one another, Adam and Eve, so that they hide from each other now. And they feel shame with one another now. There's a strained relationship in their relationship with creation and their relationship with the environment around them. And now there's also a strained relationship in their relationship with God. And this continues to reverberate, and I wish I could say it gets better before it gets worse, but it gets worse. Because these things that they stepped into and these strained relationships and these broken ways of living and this dysfunction and this destruction, it did not stop with them, it carried forward into the next generation. The things we don't deal with here and now inevitably carry forward. It's just bound to happen. And so it actually gets worse, and it actually multiplies so much so that one of their sons kills their other son. And now they have to deal with murder. And now they have to deal with the pain and loss and grief of one son being lost at the hand of another son. And the strained relationship that they've experienced with one another had just exponentially increased in the next generation. And it goes generation after generation after generation until humanity barely looks even identifiable anymore. This image of humanity being made in God's image and in his likeness to rule and reign on his behalf in covenant with God is so far from reality after several generations. And so then God, but I love God. He did not give up. And he did not relent in his pursuit for what he had for humanity, for the good things that he had in store for people. And so he decided, listen, I'm going to reveal myself personally to one so that one may become a people, and that people may be my representative in the earth so that everyone would know who I really am and would unsubscribe to the lies about me and resubscribe to the truth about me so that they could be healed and restored and that we could get back to a place of where we once were. And that's what God does in the process. He starts with a person that become a people that then reverberates into the entire world. And he's like, listen, I'm going to start with Abram, who becomes Abraham. And he tells him these promises that he has for him. And he begins to walk alongside of him and helping him to unsubscribe to some things. And it's a process. And then Abraham has one little issue in the process. He can't have kids. Him and Sarah can't have kids, which is an issue. Because the whole promise was predicated upon them having kids so that they could become a people so that all nations would be blessed in and through their lives. And they wait 25 years to be able to have the child that was promised to them, Isaac. And then Isaac grows up, and Isaac gets married to a woman named Rebekah. And the promise carries forward through Isaac, and Isaac is going to be the continuing of this blessing, of this lineage. Only problem, Isaac can't have kids either. Sounds familiar, right? And so Isaac and Rebekah wait 20 years before the fulfilled promise is for them to be able to have a child. And so Rebekah ends up pregnant after 20 years, and in the process, she's having issues with her pregnancy. Not health-wise, like literally her pregnancy, they're having issues inside of her belly. Inside of her womb. There's this thing that's going on inside of her, and all of a sudden there seems to be this battle, there's this tension that's going on. She's pregnant with twins, and the issues are not health-wise, the issues are the issues that they're having with one another in there. And so instead of her feeling a kick in her stomach, one of them is kicking the other one. Instead of her seeing like that imprint of a foot, she sees the imprint of one of their faces when the other one mushes the other one. She sees this battle that is going on, and she's like, what is going on inside of me? And so then she goes to God, and God gives her some clarity. This is Genesis chapter 25, verse 23, if you're following along in the message notes. By the way, we have message notes available for you. They're on our Miami Vineyard app. If you download the Miami Vineyard app, it's a free download, by the way. Go to this weekend and hit message notes, and everything will be right there, along with some big thoughts that I want to share with you. And then also, if you prefer a physical copy, we have them at the exits right there on that pub table. You can grab a sleeve right now and go grab it. Genesis chapter 25, verse 23. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? I'm excited. I'm ready to you guys excited? Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I'm not the only one here. Okay, cool. Genesis 25, verse 23. The Lord said to her in response, so she goes to God in response to this tension that she's feeling inside of her with these babies. And the Lord says, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. And that would have been what tripped her up. Because in that culture and in that context and in that place, it was always the firstborn that got everything. The firstborn was the one that got the blessing. The firstborn was the one that received the inheritance. The firstborn was the one that was going to be the carrier of the promise. And in this process, God tells them, no, I'm actually going to reverse it, and I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to take the wisdom of man and reverse it on their heads so that you would not trust in your customs and in your culture, but you would trust in the customs of a culture of a different kind of kingdom where the weak are actually strong in God's eyes, and where he reverses what has been undone, and he reverts what is done in our culture in such a way that this weak would become strong. So the younger will actually be the one that receives the blessing. And so the younger one is going to be the one that God carries his promise through. And so eventually it comes time for them to be born. And the first one that comes out is Esau. That's what they named the boy, Esau. But then there's a little bit of an issue as he's being born, because as he's trying to come out, there's a hand that's connected to his foot. There's a hand that will refuse to let go of his foot. He's yanking his younger brother, is yanking his leg, trying to bring her back in so that he can go out first. And so they named the firstborn Esau. They named the second one Jacob, which sounds like a nice, pleasant, nice boy name for us in our context. In Hebrew, which is the language in which the Old Testament was written in originally, the name is Yaakov, which means Jacob, but then it also is a Hebrew idiom for heel grabber. Creative names, right? Well, we're going to call it heel grabber. Yeah, foot grabber. We're going to call him that. But in the Hebrew, heel grabber, it means something more. It means it's an idiom for deceiver, trickster, manipulator, somebody who takes advantage of a situation so that they can end up on top. You imagine the picture, it's somebody who grabs your heel, and the implication is to trip you. It's a heel grabber. And this actually plays out in profound and really shocking ways as they begin to get older. So the firstborn, Esau, after some years, and they become into their young adulthood, he goes out into the field and he goes hunting, and he ends up coming back after a long journey, and he is exhausted, and he is famished, and he is dehydrated almost to the point of death. And Jacob is just sitting there in the camp making this wonderful meal that Esau happens to love. Just cooking the meal. Esau comes home. He's like, oh, thank God, Jacob. I'm so glad you prepared this meal. Please, can I have some of that? I'm at the point of death. I've had nothing for so long. And he's like, okay, yeah, you want this? How bad do you want it? How much do you want it? Enough to give me the rights of the firstborn? And Esau's like, what are you talking about? Please, give me it. Please, I need it right now. I'm about to die. And he's like, yeah, I know. So you really want it. And in this exchange, Jacob takes advantage of his brother's need and provides him this meal for the rights of the firstborn. And Esau gives it to Jacob in this way, and Jacob heel grabs once again. And so as we go further into their journey, finally they go past a few years, and their father Isaac gets to a point where he loses his eyesight, and he gets to such an old age that he thinks he's going to die at any moment. And so before he dies, he wants to tie up some loose ends, and he wants to give a final blessing to his son Esau. The blessing that God had given to his father Abraham and the blessing that God had given to him, he wants to now extend over to Esau. And so at his deathbed, he tells Esau to go and prepare a meal for him so that he can eat it and then give a blessing to Esau. Esau goes and he starts to go out and get the things that he needs. And in the process, his wife, Isaac's wife, Rebekah, overhears this. And she remembered what God had said before they were born. And she took matters into her own hands. And she said, well, actually, it's Jacob that's going to be the blessed one. so I need to do something here. I need to do something here. And so she goes to Jacob and she says, listen, Jacob, your father's about to give Esau the blessing that God gave to our family, and I want him to give it to you instead. So go in and pretend you're Esau so that your blind father can bless you instead, thinking that you're your older brother. And Jacob's like, sure, where do I sign? He's got no issue with this plan. He's got no issue with this process. And he goes in and he deceives his father and he heel grabs his father, if you will, and his father gives him God's blessing instead of Esau. Esau comes back and he's so furious and he's so bitter and he's so hurt by what Jacob would do to him that not only would he steal the rights of the firstborn, but he would steal the special blessing that God had given to their family as well. And he wants to kill Jacob. He's done with Jacob. He wants to kill him. And so Jacob has to flee from the area and go off to his mom's hometown so that he can begin to build a new life. And this is point number one in the process. And if you can start to see what's beginning to happen in Jacob's life. So before Jacob was even born, God had given his mom some promises about him. And everything up until this point would show us that Jacob actually doesn't believe that God is able to carry out his promises, that he has to do it himself. But point number one, if you're following along on your message notes, point number one is the truth. Here's the truth, is that God promised to bless Jacob before he was born. That's what God promised to do. That's the word that God gave to his mom, Rebecca, when they were in the womb. And the lie, we don't see it verbally expressed, but everything about his life and about his actions would tell us the truth about what he believed, that he has held on to a lie. The lie is that Jacob had to seize his blessing by any means necessary. God had already promised some things to him. God had already promised to bless him. God had already said that he was going to be faithful to him and that he would be the one that would carry out this blessing. And then every single stage and every single moment, big moment in his life, he acts and believes as if God isn't actually faithful to deliver on his promises. So I have to take hold of it for myself and do it in the way that I think is right and hurt everyone else in the process. And now for some of us, because this may already be starting to sink in and to hit home, for some of us, we're not talking about inheritances and we're not talking about family blessings in this kind of way, but we have some certain things in our lives that we say, God, I trust you. We say, God, be in control, but then we go about and we live our lives as if that's actually not true. We go about our lives as if God is actually not in control. We talk to people and we deal with people and we make deals and we maneuver our life and we deal with our finances and we deal with our marriage and we deal with our friendships and we deal with school as if God is not actually in control. We are. And we have to cheat and twist and turn and make things happen on our own and fight tooth and nail to get what's ours because we actually believe that it's all predicated upon us. And that's Jacob's problem. And that's the big tragedy, is that God had already promised this to him, and he goes about trying to take it for himself according to his own wisdom and hurting everyone else in the process. And this is the mess that he finds himself in. He's in exile. He's a runaway from his home. He's not welcome in his home. He is at the point of death, that his brother is pursuing him. And it's in this moment, check this out, where God shows up. And as I'm reading this, I would think this is where God shows up to pow, pow. That's what I would imagine. Like God is going to show up to judge him. God is going to show up to condemn him. God is going to show up to revoke the blessing over his life and give it to somebody that is more worthy and deserving. You know what God does? Let's read it in Genesis chapter 28 and verse 12. So Jacob, as he goes to sleep while he's in exile, while he's on the run, it says that he had a dream where he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And there above it stood the Lord. And he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. That's word for word what he told his grandfather Abraham. I am with you. So I'm not just going to bless your family. I'm not just going to bless your future. I'm going to bless you here and now. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land, and I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you, because though you have been unfaithful, that does not change my faithfulness. Though you have been cheating and conniving, that does not change my character. I am committed to blessing you, even if you refuse to be blessed by me and take the blessing for yourself, because that is the kind of God that I am. I will meet you in all of your insecurities. And in this moment, I would imagine that this would be Jacob's like worship moment. This would be Jacob's like come to Jesus moment. This would be Jacob's like, oh, I'm sorry, God. I finally realized at last, like there was this word that you gave my mom, but now I see for myself. You know what Jacob actually says? He's like, interesting. This is an interesting situation that I've been presented with. And I kid you not, we don't have time to read through it all, but if you actually go and read through it, Jacob's literal response is like, okay. So if, gives him a bunch of conditions, if you are faithful, and if you are good, and if you provide for me, and if you meet all my needs, and if you make sure that I get all the stuff that you just promised, if, then you'll be my God. And then I'll worship you. And then I'll devote myself to you. That's his response. You see what he's doing right here? He's trying to play God. He's trying to wheel and deal with God. But I love it because God is still unrelenting. And this is big thought number 2, if you're following along on your message notes. Point number 2 is that even in our conditions, hey, God is unconditional. And his grace is unconditional. Even with the conditions that we place on God, and even in the conditions in which we find ourselves, because the conditions we place on God are really more indicative, not of the conditions that he needs to do something, but the conditions in which we find ourselves in. So we tell God things like, if you do this, then I'll do this. And if you do this, and then I'll do this. We give God conditions, and still, even so, God is not intimidated by our own brokenness. He comes and steps in and promises us good things in the process anyways, because his grace is not conditional upon your ability to receive it. His grace is unconditional. It's not connected to your ability. It's not connected to your goodness. It's not connected to how perfect you've been. It's not connected to your church attendance. It's not connected to how much time you spend in prayer. God's grace is ready for you if you would simply just experience it and receive it for yourself. That's what God's grace is. God's grace is unconditional, even in our conditions. And as time goes on, Jacob is going to experience some hardship in the process. So he eventually goes to his mom's homeland, and he finds this woman, and he falls in love with this woman, and he goes to her father. He says, listen, I want to marry your daughter. And he's like, okay, work for me for 7 years. Put in that work. Some of y'all, if you had to do that to marry your wife, I don't know if you'd have done it. I don't know if that's another story for another day. But he does. He works for 7 years, and then finally on the wedding night, he thinks he's going to marry the woman of his dreams. The dad, the father-in-law, actually does a little switcheroo and brings his older daughter instead with a veil, so that he actually marries the older daughter, the one that the Bible actually says is not so, not so beautiful, not the one that he was really had his eye on, and he does a switcheroo, and then finally, this is really ironic, the one who is the deceiver has finally been, Jacob gets a little taste of his own medicine here. He has to deal with this. And so then he has to work 7 more years to then actually get the woman of his dreams. And even in the process of all this, God blesses him, and God is faithful to him, and God is good to him. And over the course of 20 years when he's in that land, he grows this big family, and God blesses him financially. He has all these resources and all this. But in the process, he deals with some issues with his in-laws. Some of y'all don't know anything about that. You don't know anything about issues with your in-laws, right? He has issues with his in-laws, so eventually he's no longer welcome with his in-laws. He has to go back home. What's the issue with that? He's wanted. he's wanted for murder back home, but he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and eventually he decides, okay, I'm going to go home nonetheless, no matter what's going to happen. They start going back home. Eventually, it's the night before he's going to go back into the land, and he anticipates that he's going to see his brother Esau, and he brings all of his family over to the other side of this body of water, and he stays by himself that night alone to think through this and to process this. And as this is happening, a man shows up. A man shows up. This is like as I imagined it. A man shows up and begins to wrestle with him. That's actually what it says. Just gives no context, gives no explanation. It's just a man shows up and they start wrestling. Like this is if you're a WWE fan, this is like when the first match is over and you think that the person won, and then all of a sudden you hear in the background dun, 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 and this person comes out of nowhere. He's like ready to fight him again. Like this is what's going on, and they get into this all-night battle where they're wrestling one another and they're fighting one another. And the question you should be having is, who is this man? That we'll get there in just a second. But they're wrestling and they're battling and they're fighting with one another. And then finally it gets to the point where it's almost daylight. And so the man that Jacob is wrestling with tries to deal a blow to him that will end the fight right there and there. He hits his hip a little bit and dislocates his hip so that Jacob would be done. And daylight's coming in, and the man tells him, listen, let go of me. It's time for me to go. And Jacob's like, no, I refuse to let you go until you bless me. I refuse to let you go. This is Genesis 33. You could put the verses up as I'm paraphrasing this. I refuse to let you go until you bless me. Why? Because this is how I get my blessings. I've been fighting my whole life to get blessing. I've been working, I've been striving, I've been cheating, I've been making a way, I've been taking advantage of situations, I've been taking advantage of my family. This is how you get blessing. I refuse to give up. And the man says, let's talk about that. You told yourself a certain story about your life, haven't you? You have a certain narrative about your life that you have fought tooth and nail to get what you have, that you are self-made, that you have done all that you can, and you have done whatever it takes by any means necessary to get what you've got now. You have a certain pride about that. Jacob, can I tell you a different narrative about your life? Can I tell you that before you were even born, that God had promised to be faithful to you and to bless you? Jacob, can I tell you that even in the midst of you betraying your brother and betraying your father and betraying your in-laws and doing all kinds of shady things to cheat and manipulate your way into what you think is the good life, that I have actually been the source of your good life? That you have not actually been the source? And in this process, as Jacob has been injured and he's debilitated, but he refuses to let go, the man asks him a question. Hey, what's your name? What do you go by? What's your identity rooted in? What is your name? And he says, Jacob, heel grabber, deceiver, cheater, manipulator, abuser. That's who I am. And finally, he's, in this moment, he's honest enough about who he's been and who he actually is. Because you can't actually experience healing if you don't believe that you actually need to be healed. You can't actually, if you are convinced that you are the source of all your blessing, you have no room to allow God to actually come and bless you. I need you to bless me. Well, let's deal with who you actually are first. Before I bless you, let me deal with your identity first. And he says, listen, I am Jacob. And the man says, not anymore. You are no longer heel grabber. You're no longer deceiver. You're no longer cheater. You're no longer manipulator. You'll no longer be known by one who takes advantage of others to get ahead. You will be known by Israel. Your name is now Israel. You know what Israel means? It means one who struggles with God. one who struggles and somebody who wrestles with God. And so your identity is no longer going to be formed around how you get ahead by cheating others in the process, how you take a step up by stepping on other people. Your identity is now going to be formed by this exact moment. The fact that you actually wrestled with God, that you've been fighting with God all your life to the point where God gave you a promise before you were born. God showed up to you in a powerful dream, and none of that worked. So then God actually put on flesh and came to where you were at in the midst of your trial, in the midst of your moment, and he actually stepped in to wrestle with you so that you could finally believe what God says about you. You are Israel, and your identity will be formed around this moment when you struggled and wrestled with God, and you came out a different kind of person in the process. And you know what's beautiful about Israel, about the idea of wrestling with God? God has to be close for you to wrestle with him. God has to be near for you to battle with him. God, if it's like, man, I've been struggling with God, I've been wrestling with God, I've been dealing with some things in my life, and I feel like I'm in a battle with God. Well, God actually has to be there. You can't wrestle someone that's not present. You can't have this struggle with somebody that's not there. God puts on flesh and shows up to Jacob in his life in a tactile way and gives him a new identity, not centered around the stuff that he has done before, but centered around what is happening right here and now in his relationship with God, that he is a different kind of person because God has come down and God has revealed himself to him, and your whole life is formed around this moment now. Israel. Point number 3. Can I give you point number 3? Point number 3, if you're following along, is that God comes close to wrestle away the lies we subscribe to. God comes close to wrestle away the lies we subscribe to. God is unrelenting. The Bible says that God is a passionate God. And he loves you too much to let you stay in your brokenness. He loves you too much to allow you to stay settled in your insecurities. God will do by any means necessary to bless you. Even show up in your life and pick a fight with you so that he could bless you, so that you could know him, and so that you could stop living according to the dysfunction of your family and according to the dysfunction of your life and according to the dysfunction of your insecurities, but according to the renewal and the restoration of what it actually looks like to be close with God. That's what God does. All right. One more thing. Can I give you one more thing? So the next morning, now he's walking with a limp. Now he can't act as if he's stronger than he actually is. Now he walks with a limp. And he goes and he finds his brother, who he's convinced is going to kill him. And in that moment, they embrace one another. And they weep. And they hug. And it seemed as if reconciliation with God actually reverberated into reconciliation with his family too. In the same way, what happened in the garden when rebellion against God and disunity with God actually reverberated into every area of life, so reconciliation with God also reverberates into every area of your life. That if you are at peace with God, then what do you need to be at war with? That if you are at peace with God, it may not look like it's all tied up on a bow immediately, but God is faithful to restore every single area of your life and every single relationship and to redeem what has been broken. That if you are reconciled with God, everything else comes after that. And they embrace, and they're restored, and they're reconciled, and Jacob goes back into the land, and in this moment, he has a worship moment with God. He sets up this altar, and check this out, verse 20 of chapter 33, verse 20. It says, there he set up an altar, and what did he call it? He called it El Elohe Israel. Which means, it may just sound like a nice, pretty Hebrew name, but what it means is God is the God of Israel. Right? Now you are my God. He's Israel. He's going by the name that God gave him. Not by the name that's according to his own dysfunction and to his own destruction. He goes by the name that God gave him, and now finally, he started this whole thing with, well, if this, and if this, and if this, and if this, then you'll be my God. And now finally, he acknowledges and lets God in. You are my God. I worship you. I'm done fighting. I'm done hiding. I'm done running. I'm done pretending like I've got it all under control. You are my God. You are my God. Which means I don't have to be. Can I pray for you really quick? Can I pray for you as we begin to close? Because maybe God is just stirring some things up. Maybe God is doing some things right now in your heart and in your life, and you're remembering certain things, and you're calling to attention certain things, and maybe the Spirit of God is just doing something cool right now in your life. And maybe for some of you here in this place where you like, I believe in God, and I worship God, and I praise God, and I thank God, and like I'm a Christian, like I go to church, like I thank him and I praise him, but I actually have a really hard time actually living as if that's true. Maybe not in every area. Maybe there are specific areas for you where like it's really hard to really let you be God in this. It's really hard to let you be God in my finances. It's really hard to let you take full control in my marriage. It's really hard to let you be in control in my school pathway. It's really hard to let you be in control of my friendships and of my relationships. It's really hard to let you be in control of my mental health. Come, Holy Spirit. God, I pray that you would heal, that you would renew. Lord, that you would break down every insecurity in us. God, that you would wash away every trust issue that we have with you. The ones that we didn't even know we had. We couldn't have even articulated it if you asked. But God, you're revealing it even right now, not so that we could experience shame, but so that you could heal. That maybe, God, you're just putting your finger on a specific area of our life where if we're honest, I've just not trusted you, God, in this. God, I pray that you would let us have faith in you and a trust in you and a belief that you are actually who you say you are. And Lord, maybe for some of us in here, God, I pray for maybe some of us who actually have never given you full permission, given you access, given you the opportunity to come into our life in this kind of way, that has not stopped you, that you have still been faithful, that you have still been good, that from before we were even born, that you knew us and you called us. But God, if there's never been a moment for some of us to just simply respond and to say yes to you leading our lives, God, I pray for those of us right now. And if that's you, and if there's never been a point or a moment in your life where you can look back on and you can say, I gave God control. I'm gonna allow you to lead my life. I want to lead you in just a quick prayer. I want to just invite you to give God control, to surrender control. And you could pray it in your heart. It's just a moment between you and God. I'll pray it out loud. You can just follow along. Say, God, thank you for your forgiveness. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your unconditional grace. I didn't always know it, but I know it now. And I want you to lead me. I want you to be in control. I want you to guide my life. And so I give it to you. Let me pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.